Okay, Rabbi Sai. So once again, people have asked me, what does the title of the shir mean? The Perfidious Paramour. And I'll let the shir speak for itself. You'll understand what it means after you hear the shaila. So this is a common day shaila. I say that facetiously. There's a famous Ohr, the Binyan Sion, who lived like 130 years ago, 120 years ago, and he was asked a shaila from Harav Hagoyin Reb Mendel Friedlander. What was the shaila? So in order to do justice to the shaila, I really have to read it in Hebrew, because if I don't read it in Hebrew, you won't believe it. You'll think I'm making this thing up. He says like this. I'll just paraphrase. A story happened not too long ago that a situation occurred that anyone who hears it, his ears will ring from distraught or from amazement. There was a town that was Tachas Digli, meaning this rabbi saying there was a small town that he was a rabbi over, and two Jews lived there. And these two Jews used to go once in a while out to do business. They would travel to do business for a couple of days. And they would leave their wives alone in the house with their children and daughters, the Misharteim. It seemed that they had maid servants, they had a whole household. And it came that one guy, we'll call him, just for convenience sake, we'll call him Yankel. So Yankel went on his way to do business. He left his wife and his kids, and all of a sudden appeared out of nowhere a man from Poland, and the man's begotten, the man's clothes was all ripped, and he begged the woman, the head of the household, could he please reside by her for a couple of days? He needed a place to stay. And the Isha was a known snua. She was very modest. She was well known to be extremely modest, this woman. The Yankel's wife, the head of the household. Avo Yerasa Kitzilta. But as God-fearing as she was equally stupid. Okay? And so as God-fearing as it was, she was, like I said, equally gullible. Rachmar love, she had mercy on him, on this, basically this homeless fellow, this traveler. And she gave him a place to sleep in the house, and food and drink. But this guest, this traveler, wouldn't eat any meat products. And he wouldn't drink anything but water.
That's suspicious.
And he exhibited all different types of Maisa Precious, all types of V'sigav Asmai B'skuvim Kasha, all different types of self-afflictions and flagellations, all different types of, like, the deeds of great tzaddikim, right? All day he would sit in his room, and he had a book in his hand, and also at night he was learning, and at Chatzos, when it came 12 at night, all of a sudden, he would sit on the floor and he would start crying and screaming and wake up the whole household. He was crying about the Churban of the Beis HaMikdash. And when he slept, he only slept on the floor. He wouldn't sit on a chair or on a bed. And he had stones as a pillow. And every day he would go out to the forest and he would break the ice to be toivel in freezing cold water. That's what it was. Sounds like a great guy, right? A big tzaddik. So it was for a whole week, from Parshas Truma until Parshas Tetzaveh, which is next week. Fine. There was one Leil Shabbos, that Leil Shabbos, after the Suda, and everyone went to sleep. Everyone went to sleep. But the woman, the hostess, and this man, was still sitting on the table. They were still there. And the woman said, tell me, who are you exactly? Why are you traveling? What's your history? Where are you going? And the man said, Ana shluchad rachmanana, I am an emissary of the Lord, and my name is Eliyahu Hanavi, and I am trying to bring about the redemption, to bring the Jews from all four corners of the earth. And the truth is, I have not revealed this to anyone. I only reveal my secret. I'm Eliyahu Hanavi, only to the most modest. And the woman was l'roy sechlusa, in her foolishness. Haminallah, she believed him. Wow, Eliyahu Hanavi's dining at a table. Fine, she went to sleep. She went to sleep in her private room, and ha'oicher, meaning this guy, sat at the Shabbos table, and he was just learning until 12 o'clock. At 12 o'clock, halach la'at al etzbois raglov, he tippy-toed to the bed of the woman, the hostess. And he woke her up, and he said to her, I'm sure in a deep voice, you should know, I have traveled all four corners of the world and have not found a tzaddikus, a righteous woman, as yourself. And only from you will Mashiach be born. You will be the mother of Mashiach. But the problem is, even though you're supposed to be the mother of Mashiach, it seems that your husband is not fit to be the father of Mashiach. Your husband is not fit to be the father of Mashiach. And therefore I have been sent from the Lord to live with you, to have relations with you. And Ke'ez Chaya, he's like using Lashon of the Bible. Ke'ez Chaya, and in a year exactly, till the end, you'll have a child who will be the Messiah. And he will redeem Yisrael. And I'm going to prove to you that I'm Eliyahu Hanavi. She said, yeah, how are you going to prove that you're Eliyahu Hanavi? He says, Tuesday, not today, it was Shabbos. You see that box over there? It's going to be filled with 400 meyas dukaten, some type of $400, 400 silver coins or gold coins. But remember, don't open that box until Tuesday. And so he spoke to her that we have to be together, we have to have a relationship, we got to bring Mashiach to the world. He said, remember Yehuda and Tamar, this is the way it's got to be done. And sadly enough, she was seduced. Vitime oisa, she was contaminated. Pamayim, twice. Lel Shabbos and Motzei Shabbos. That's what happened. So, Gilui Eliyahu, the revelation of Eliyahu, sort of. Will be Yom Rishon, and in the first Sunday morning, she wakes up, and where is our friend Eliyahu Hanavi, the Noyef, the adulterer? He ran away. Now, the woman, she's still sure that he's Eliyahu Hanavi, and she's going to bring Mashiach because of this. So what does the woman do? The Isha Kisel Hanal, our foolish woman, writes a letter to her husband. And she writes her letter to her husband, husband, you could abort your trip. You could come back early. We're rich. You don't got no more business. You're going to Koilel. Why? Because when you come home, I'm going to open up the box on Tuesday, and there's going to be big bucks, 400 gold coins. And the husband comes back home, and you can imagine they opened it up on Tuesday, and the box was empty. Nothing was found of the treasure. And then she realized that she finally figured it out, that maybe this guy was not Eliyahu Hanavi. And she started crying and screaming, and she told her husband the whole story, the whole thing, that she got seduced, and she lived with him twice, and she tells him Kol Te'eva, and she tells him, don't think that I wanted to be unfaithful. I didn't do it to betray you. I was sure that this is what God wanted me to do, and I was sure that you're Navi. And then she says, and the Noyef, the adulterer, was Ishmayis and Mechuyamayid. He was really ugly, and he was actually disgusting. And there's no way that I did this for any reason except because I wanted to bring the Mashiach. Okay? Now, for some reason or other, the husband was not too happy with his wife. The Baal was not pacified. He was not happy. And he wanted to know. He sent to this letter to, he called Mendel Friedlander, who was the rabbi of the town. He wanted to know what to do. And Mendel Friedlander said, well, this is a shot I got to ask the Gadol Dor. The Aruch HaNer was the Gadol Dor, right? He was the Rebbe of Hirsch, right? So that was the question. That was the question. A very tragic story of a woman who was seduced by a pseudo Eliyahu Navi. So what is the question exactly? What are the issues? What are the issues? Are very simple. We know that if a woman cheats on her husband even one time a woman cheats on her husband, she is usher forever and ever and ever to live with that husband ever again. Right? So, where do you know that from? We learned it out from the Parashat Saita. As you recall, it says in Parashat Saita, V'nitma, it says the word V'nitma 3 times. Echad lebal, echad leboyel, ve'echad letruma. If a woman cheats on her husband, she could never live again with the Baal, never live again with the guy who she cheated with, and never eat the truma. Right? Now that's talking if we know for sure she cheated. But the law is, even if we don't know for sure. But if there was kinu v'stira, I'm sure you all remember what that is, right? The Baal says, he forewarns the lady, don't hang around with Mr. X. And she secluded herself with Mr. X. So what are you supposed to do? You take her to the Beis HaMikdash, and she drinks the Mei Saita, and that's a trial by ordeal. If she lives, you know that she was faithful. If she dies, well, she dies. But the truth is, in our days, let's say there's kinu v'stira. So you don't know if she cheated. You don't know. But she actually never drank the water. Like in our days, there are no waters. Or for whatever reason, she doesn't drink the water. Forever and ever and ever, she's also usher to the Baal and to the Boil and the Truma. So that's why the Shulchan Aruch puts in emphatically, don't ever give your wife kinui. Because if you do, and she does stira, that's it. You can never ever live with her again. There's no way out of it because there is no Mei Saita nowadays. At the end of the May, so even a Suffolk Saita basically can't ever live with the Baal Boil, but certainly 1,000% where we know that she cheated with her husband, there's no question she's usher on her husband forever and ever, and also to the Boil. Okay, now, but wait. You wrote the tshuva? I think Gadi wrote the tshuva. No, we'll get to what Gadi's saying. But this is only by Yisrael. A Yisrael. The law is, like we said, if she cheats on purpose. If she is raped, like the pasuk says, "V'hi lo nitpasa," meaning the pasuk says she's usher only if she did it on purpose. V'hi lo nitpasa, but if she was grabbed against her will, then she's still mutter to the Yisrael, right? Then it's okay. So if it's an Einis, she's mutter to her husband. But if it was purposefully, then she is also her husband. The only exception to the rule is a kohen. If a kohen's wife is, God forbid, raped, forever and ever and ever, she can't live with that husband, and she can't live with any other kohen because it has absolutely nothing to do with the marriage. It doesn't have to do with the marriage factor. She becomes something called a zaina, which means any lady that has a bia that's usher, whether she did it willingly or not willingly, she becomes usher to the kohen, not only to her husband kohen, any kohen. So b'kitzur, there have been tragic stories. I happen to know of a tragic story of a kohen's wife who got raped, and that they had to get divorced, and there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can do about it because that is the law. Okay? But, so now that we know this little background, just so we all knew, the issue is here, this woman slept with pseudo Eliyahu Navi, slept with this Oicher, slept with this Naif, with her daughter. She did it willingly. Right? She was not forced, she wasn't raped. So, seemingly, it's a simple case of she has to get divorced from her husband, and end of the story. End of the story, she lived with someone else extramarital affair, willingly, usher. That's it. Oh. But of course, the Binyan Sion is going to try to get this gullible woman to be able to stay married to her husband. Right? That's what we want to try to do. We want to try to make it that this woman can stay married to her husband. That's what we want to try to do. So what's his first attempt? His first attempt is based on the famous Mishnah in Nedarim, which Gadi mentioned. I mean, his first attempt is to say, this is a really wild story. She met pseudo Eliyahu Navi, and maybe she made the whole thing up. Why do we believe her? Let the husband say, I don't believe a word you're saying over here. Oh, the truth is, there's an open Mishnah that talks about this. And Mishnah at the end of the Dharm. And the Mishnah says that there were 2 points of history. Birshayna, early on in history, if a woman would say she was raped, or for our purposes, she says she had an extramarital affair, we force the husband to give a get. We believe her. We believe her 100%. Okay? It says, but Bishna Achroina, but later on in history, it says that the rabbi saw that women were making up these stories. There were some women who were having problems in their marriage, and in the good old days, a woman couldn't get divorced only with the only with the consent of her husband, so she's basically stuck in a bad marriage. Or a good marriage, which doesn't make a difference. She wanted out, so she'll make up a story. Very simple. She'll come to her court one day, come to her husband and say, I had an extramarital affair. I got raped if the husband was a kohen, whatever. So it seems that became pretty prevalent. They saw that sometimes women would fancy some other guy. So they said, she's not believed. She is not believed. In our days, when a woman comes and says, I had an extramarital affair, we don't believe her. No believing, we don't believe her. We don't force the husband to divorce her, make them stay married. Okay? Now, we're not going to go through the lumdus of this. This is a super duper lumdus. How did that work? How in the beginning did we believe her? And how, if we did believe her, how do the Rabbanan have the power to uproot that belief? Right? This is, many Rishonim say, this is one of the rare cases that the rabbis have a right to uproot the Torah. One of the very rare cases where the rabbis have the right to say, yes, she should be believed, but in order to keep society together, the rabbis uprooted the Torah, which is a rarity. Okay? But we're not getting involved in that. Maybe I'll give a separate shir one day, what happened between the Mishnah Rishayna and the Mishnah Acharona. So, like Gadi said, L'chayra, there's no problem. She said she lived with Eliyahu Navi, with pseudo Eliyahu Navi. We don't believe her. They should say, go home. You're not adulterous. We don't believe you. Oh, okay. So then she'd be mutter. Yeah. The problem is that there was some circumstantial evidence that sort of facilitated the case or proved her case. Why? Because in the morning, the servants or the waiters or whatever it is, the butler came into her bedroom and found this guy lying on the floor. You're right? The guy only sleeps on the floor. He's very Kodesh. He only sleeps on the floor. But he found Eliyahu, right, the pseudo Eliyahu, actually sleeping in the bedroom of this woman on the floor. So you'll say, so what? So if you open up a Shulchan Aruch, the Shulchan Aruch brings down, which is like to use Machlokes and the Rishonim, but the Shulchan Aruch brings down this that we say in our days, in 2023, that we do not believe a woman who says she had an extramarital affair. We tell her to go home. We don't believe her. That's only if you don't have any evidence that buttresses the case. But if there's reglayim l'davar, if there's evidence that sort of shows that there's a good chance that she did have the extramarital affair, again, not Adam, but you had some circumstantial evidence, that would be enough based on she said that she did it, she said Tmeani, she said that she had the affair, and we have circumstantial evidence, then we do believe her. So seemingly in our case, since she said Tmeah, and we have circumstantial evidence, because the guy was sitting there in a bedroom on the floor, So seemingly, we should believe her. Oh. But the truth is, it's not circumstantial evidence. Why not? Because the Gemara in the Dharm, I'm not going to go through the whole case over there, but the Gemara in the Dharm says, on the contrary, when a woman cheats on her husband, the cheater, the boil, doesn't sit around in the bedroom to get caught. He usually runs away. So on the contrary, by the fact that the guy was sitting there and just sitting there sleeping on the floor, and he didn't leave the premises right away, that is evidence that he probably did not do anything wrong with her. Right? That's the Gemara. The Ikusei have mirkus. Anyone who does an Isser usually tries to skedaddle out of there. So basically, this that he was sleeping on the floor of the bedroom with the woman is not considered enough circumstantial evidence. So basically, we're back to square one. It's only based on her testimony that she said Tmei ani lecha, and hence we don't believe her. What about yichud? This is a huge machlokes, and the Binyamin talks about that. It happens to be the doors were open. The doors were open, so there wasn't yichud. But we paskin even with yichud, it's not called enough for reglayim l'dover. We paskin reglayim l'dover has to be actually more than yichud.
In our case, the door was open?
Yeah, in this case, the door was open, but it doesn't make a difference. Halacha l'maisa we paskin even if there's yichud, that's not called enough reglayim l'dover. If you want to really get entertained, you open up the cases in the modern day courts in the Rabbanut, then you'll see some stories, and it's all dealing with this. Is what's considered enough evidence to say that if she agrees that I had an extramarital affair, what is considered enough evidence to sort of support that? But let's not go there. The Kitzer. So in our case, as of now, we have found a heter. Why? Because we just don't believe her fantastical story. We just don't believe her story. We don't believe it. Eliyahu wasn't here. It never happened. Okay.
The butler says he was there.
What?
Butler says
no, no, Eliyahu was there. The guy was there, but the story is that that they lived together, that they had a conjugal relationship, right? That we don't believe, so we don't believe her that she lived with this pseudo Eliyahu Navi, with this fake guy. We don't believe it. Fine, great. Oh, the problem is this is not going to be a good heter, because if we open up a Shulchan Aruch, the Shulchan Aruch brings there, based on Tosfos and the Dharm, this that we say in our days, we don't believe a woman who says she has an extramarital affair. That's only if the husband is hesitant. But if the husband says unequivocally, I believe her, finished, the marriage is over. And therefore, anyone who becomes a marriage counselor and has to deal with these cases, we always try to tell the husband, don't believe her, because if the husband says 100% unequivocally, I know she's saying the truth, and this shilas, or Moshe deals with these shilas, what does it mean? But is it like, oh, I think she's right? Well, I really won't trust her with my wallet, but for this I do trust her. No, it has to be that this is a woman that you always trust her. So if a woman who says in 2023, who says Tmei ani lecha, and the husband says, I agree, I think she's saying the truth 100%, then she's also.
Why are we trying so hard to get a man to stay with a woman who probably cheated on him?
This is a nice lady.
Forget Arket, but
she's a good Beis Yaakov girl. What do you want from her? She's not sophisticated than you. She thought the guy was Eliyahu Navi. Give her a break. No, right? Okay, wait.
Same thing, 2020.
Oh, wait a minute. So, Bekitzer. So, L'chaira, again, the reason is very simple. The reason is because we could sort of like play this game and say, oh, even though she said Tmei ani lecha, we don't believe her, and we can say that the husband doesn't believe her, and we think it never happened. But the second the husband says, I know it happened, so it's us for the husband to live with her. So that is the halacha. So says the Binyamin, the Halacha Oichaner, this case, yeah, for both of them. That's excellent, Gadi. I already dealt with that. And I said, this is one of the cases where Oikad Davar Min HaTorah. How is it that the Mishnah Achronim works? That's like a slew of Rishonim we consider all day trying to figure that out. But that is the bottom line. In 2023, a woman said Tmei ani lecha, we don't believe her. they can live happily ever after. If the husband says, I do believe her, the marriage is kapui, finished, over with. And says the Binyan Sia, and this husband said, my wife is not smart enough to make up these stories. My wife is saying 1,000% the truth. There's no way she made up the story. So, sadly enough, at this juncture, she is usher. She's usher forever and ever to live with this husband because we believe her, the husband believes her, and basically she had an extra marital affair. Okay, that's what comes out. Oh.
What about the kids?
There was no kid. Do you think Mashiach happened? What's the matter? Just like there was no money, there was no Mashiach. Trust me. This is written 150 years ago. If Mashiach happened, we probably would have known about it. Yeah. So probably, even though the Christians say Mashiach happened, but they don't know. We don't know about it. But we believe that when Mashiach happens, we're gonna know about it. It's gonna be pretty clear. Okay. Rabbi side.
Why is it not a pesha?
What pesha b'shiter?
She's a woman.
Well, she's what?
She says herself.
She said I had extramarital affair. That's it. That's what she says. I had an extramarital affair. That's it. That's it. There's no. It's a pesha also. There ain't no pesha enter. That's it. She said I had extramarital affair. Shama Yisrael. Oh, but says the Binyan Sia, we got to save this woman. We got to save this woman because, like I said, she was really a nice lady who just was not too urbane, just wasn't too sophisticated. Oh, so. The Binyan Sia says, L'chayr is a very, very simple heter. A very simple heter. Exactly. That's what I would have said. I would have said, we said a woman that is raped is mutter to her husband. This seems to be a tantamount to being raped. Right? She thought that God told her to do this. Eliyahu, being the mouthpiece of their Rebbeinu Shalom, told her to do this. Right? So, wait a minute. Both times, right? So, what's the difference if someone physically forced her? Or in her mind, she was doing something, not only mutter, something that she had to do. It was something that she had to do. So seemingly, we could give her the heter. It's as if it is analogous to being raped. And that's where the Binyan Sia is going. Wait. Gadi. Oh. The problem is, the Maharik, who actually lived 500 years ago, basically was, right, the Rik, Rabbi Yosef Kolon, he's quoted a lot in the Shulchan Aruch. So he actually deals with this question. Not this question with Eliyahu Navi. That's the once in a couple thousand years, millennia. That doesn't happen. But he's dealing with this question. What's his question? There was a woman who became a ger. She became a ger, and she got married, and then she had an extramarital affair.
Wait.
And when they approached her, they say, "What's going on?" I said, "I didn't know you're not allowed to do that." I didn't know. I'm a mutter, right? The Gemara filled this. I'm a mutter. I had no idea.
Who was your
Okay, I'm not gonna say anything about that. Who was the bezin? So that was so l'chayra. I'm a mutter. She thought it was mutter. Open marriage. She thought it was mutter. House is good. Oh, so they asked the Marik. Again, Marik is a late Rishon, and the Marik says she's a shor aser. She's a shor aser. Why? Because he makes his own drasha. He says it's true. If you look at the pasuk, it says ish umala mal, a woman who is rebellious or betrays. It doesn't say mal b'Hashem, which is really a pasuk somewhere else in the Torah. It says mal. In order to be considered that you betrayed your husband, it has nothing to do with God. It has nothing to do with, well, you shouldn't cheat on your husband because, it's an Avera, it says, like Tinai, it's nothing to do with God. Leave the Rebbeinu Shalom out of this. A woman that cheats on her husband, even if she thinks that it's mutter, in the sense that it's not an Avera between her and the Rebbeinu Shalom, but clearly she understands that she's betraying her husband. So even if God would sanction it or would allow it, but that doesn't make a difference. Because the pasuk says, Umal Mal. It doesn't say Umal Mal about Hashem, it says Umal Mal. And this much she understood, that when you're married, there's a certain type of fidelity between the man and the wife. So the Marik Sherish, the Marik, paskin that this ger is us to her husband forever and ever and ever, and it is not tantamount to rape. It's not tantamount. Because she did it willingly, even though she sort of was mutter, but at least she knew that she was sort of crossing the line in the sense of not being, not having fidelity to her husband. Okay, now, says the Marik, I want to tell you something else. I'm going to bring you a proof, even if it was a mitzvah, even if the Rabbi Shalom told a woman to betray her husband, but bottom line is, if it's done willingly, it's also us to her husband.
It's like Mordecai.
It's also us to her husband. Wait. Meaning, Marik says. Oh, now we know what Purim's got to do with this. Marik says, if the Gemara has a bunch of cases where a woman wakes up one morning and she realizes the guy next to her is not her husband. The Gemara has cases like that. There are, right? The Gemara is filled with these type of cases. Don't ask me how these things happen, but it happens. The Gemara times everything, all the possibilities. But nowadays, hopefully these things don't happen. Anyway, what happened was, you woke up and you realized that it wasn't your husband. That the Gemara says openly, she's mutter to her husband. Openly mutter to her husband. Openly, in that case. So, that's clear like day if she was physically raped, or she sort of thought that the man was her husband, but it actually was her neighbor, right? Those cases, even the Marik says you mutter to her husband. Why? Because in those cases, she didn't want to betray her husband at all. When she was raped, she definitely didn't want to betray her husband. And when she mixed up the partners, she thought she was living with her husband. Later on, it was revealed that it wasn't her husband, but she had absolutely no intent to rebel against her husband. Right? No intent to rebel against her husband. It's only in a case where Omer Mutter, she knew it wasn't her husband, but she thought it's okay. That's not such a big deal. She had the extramarital affairs. In that case, okay, you said it was okay, but you knew that you were rebelling against your husband. You knew you were betraying your husband. So there the Marik says, you are usher to your husband forever and ever and ever. And he brings a proof that even if there are going to be cases, even where the Rabbi Shalom himself told a woman to cheat, per se, she'll also still be usher to her husband. How could that be? How could it be? Because we all know the famous story in Megillah. He brings the story in the Megillah. What does Esther say? Kasher avadeti. Right? What happened? Right? The Jews are in a precarious situation. Things are not going good, downhill. So what does Mordecai say? Esther, you better get yourself over to Achashverosh and get him in order. We got to get things moving over here, or else we're all going to die. So Esther says, what do you want to do? Well, go straight into the bedroom and convince him. That's basically what Mordecai said to Esther, in putting it mildly. Get him to, live with him and seduce him and get him to change his degree. So Esther said, okay, I'll do it. I don't want to do it. I'll do it. Everyone should fast. And Esther said, okay, now I'm going in willingly. She says, Mordecai, you know that's it. Our marriage is over. Because once I live with Achashverosh, I can never return to be your wife anymore. Right? I can never be your wife anymore. Until now, I was being raped by Achashverosh. We'll talk about that more in a minute. But now I'm going willingly. And since now I'm going willingly, I'll be usher to you forever and ever and ever. Now pray tell, says the Marik. Mordecai is telling her to go. Mordecai is telling her to go. She was a Navi. Right? There's no way that Esther didn't go without the sanction of the Rebbeinu Shalom, without Rebbeinu Shalom allowing it. Right? There's no way. So what was she doing? A mitzvah. What she was doing was a mitzvah. She had to go according to Halacha. So why would she be Asar and Mordecai afterwards? Why is that different than being raped? What do we see from here?
When you betray your
We
husband.
see from here, it don't make no difference why you are living with another man. You could have the most altruistic reasons and the most holiest reasons. It don't make no difference. If you willingly go and live with another man, under any circumstance, you're usher to your husband forever and ever and ever. So says, this is Marik, right? So says the Marik, yes, a woman that's raped is mutter to her husband. A woman who mistakenly switched partners, she didn't know that it was her husband, that's not a betrayal. But a woman willingly goes to another man for any reason whatsoever. It doesn't make a difference what the reason is. Now we're saying even if it's a mitzvah. Okay? So now, if we stop now at this point, seemingly, sadly enough, our gullible girl is usher on her husband. Because what do we say? We said l'chayra, this that she went with the pseudo Eliyahu Navi, this that she went with him is comparable to rape. Because she was doing a mitzvah. She thought that she had to do it. She thought that the Ma'adir Shalom told her to do it. What does the Marik say? It don't make no difference. As long as you're going willingly to another man, you are considered betraying your husband. Even if the husband told you to do it, that's the chiddush here. Even if the husband told you to do it, it don't make no difference. It doesn't make a difference. So sadly enough, at this point in our life, our gullible woman is usher to her husband. Oh, now the Binyan Sin disagrees with the Marik. Now, the Binyan Sin really cannot disagree with the Marik because the Binyan Sin lived 130 years ago, and the Marik is a Rishon. So this section is he's saying, this is what I think. But at the end he's going to renege because I can't argue with the Marik. He says that's really far out. He says, okay, Marik, I agree with you. If a woman says, I'm a mutter, a woman says, oh, I think it's okay to live with another man. I wasn't paying attention to shir that day when the teacher said that's not a good thing. Okay, that we can understand that, you know what, I'm a mutter, even though she thinks it's mutter, that's a clear betrayal to her husband, even if she thinks it's okay religiously. But how could it be, says the Marik, if Mordechai told Esther to do it, and God told Esther to do it, and halachically she had to do it? How is that possible that she'll be usher to her husband? I mean, that doesn't make too much sense.
It's true though.
It's true that that's what the Marik says. The Marik says it's true. Oh, so says the Binyan Sin. He thinks that the reason why Esther would be usher to Mordechai is because when Esther went into Achashverosh, she wasn't sure if she was allowed to do what she was doing. What does it mean she wasn't sure? Because if you remember, what did Mordechai say to Esther? What did Mordechai say to Esther? Em achareish tachareishi leis hazois revech v'atzala yavoi liyudim v'atru beis avich toivedu. Something like that, right? Mordechai said, listen, Esther, the Jews are going to be saved. Don't worry about it. The Jews are going to be saved. That's not a question. I think this is the way it has to be done. I think the way it has to be done is by you offering yourself to Achashverosh. That's the way I think it has to be done. But you see that Mordechai himself was equivocating, because Mordechai himself said, and if you don't do it, don't worry. I'm sure God will save everyone else except for you. Right? So says the Binyan Sin, no. The reason why Esther was going to be usher to Mordechai when she said her statement, because when she went, she wasn't 1,000% sure it was mutter for her to go. She wasn't sure. She wasn't sure if this was the way it was supposed to be done. And like we said, Mordechai himself, it seems, wasn't sure. So that's why he has a whole lumdus. She could do it, pikuach nefesh, but really, since it's not 100% sure, maybe it's wrong, so she'll be usher to Mordechai. But if Esther would have been 1,000% sure that it was mutter, it's not a betrayal. It's not a betrayal. And says the Binyan Sion, our gullible girl, she was 1,000% sure that what she was doing was a mitzvah. Now, it was true she was mistaken. That's true, she's a moron. She's an imbecile. There's no question that she's mistaken. But in her mind, it was 100% mutter for her to do it. So Esther comes out like this, according to Binyan Sion. The girl was a moron, but she'll be mutter to her husband. Esther is the big tzaddikus, she'll be also to her husband. Why? Because the girl was sure that he was Eliyahu Navi. So in her mind, in her make-believe world, what she was doing, there was no equivocation in her mind. She was 1,000% sure. In Esther's world, there was equivocation. There was a, she wasn't sure. So therefore, she would be usher on Mordechai. So this is the way the Binyan Sion wants to matter this woman. That it is called Oinus. It is called Oinus. Because she was 1,000% sure what she's doing, she was mutter. And she thought God told her to do it. She thought the Rebbeinu Shalom told her to do it. I'm a mutter, even if God allows it, let's say. But it's definitely not God told her to do it. And she definitely betrayal of her husband. But if the Rebbeinu Shalom, in this lady's mind, it was 1,000,000% that the Rebbeinu Shalom told her to do it, it's not called a betrayal of her husband. Oh. But the Binyan Sion says, I can't argue on the Marik. Anyway, I think the whole thing is a little bit tenuous, his whole logic. But he himself says at the end of the day, I can't argue Marik. Marik says, Esther is us to Mordechai, even if Esther, on the onset, knew 1,000,000% it was mutter, even though she had a heter of 10,000 rabbis, and it makes no difference. If you willingly live with another man, no matter what the reasons are, you are out. Out. So at this point in our life, this lady is not allowed to live with her husband. But then the Binyan Sion says, based on the Shvus Yaakov, says, no, she is mutter. Why? Because there's something that should be bothering you guys. There was, if you know this, the Purim story was 13 years, right? A long story. So, only, basically, this is like only in the 10th to 12th, 11th year does Esther say, Kasher avaditi, avaditi. Oh, Mordechai, if I go to Achashverosh, that's it. I can never be your wife again. Wait a minute. She's been living with Achashverosh for many, many years. And the Gemara says, which I find it totally baffling, but the Gemara says that after she would live with Achashverosh, she would go to the mikvah and live with Mordechai. That's open Gemara. And Rashi said, why did she go to the mikvah? Just so not because of not to make her Torah, but that Mordechai should not be disgusted. Now, first of all, when I read the Gemara, really? You tried to save the Jewish people, and you're sleeping with the queen? The chief rabbi is sort of like living with the queen. That don't sound too prudent. That don't sound like that's the way to go. It's something wrong over here. But as I say to the Gemara, as I say that after she lived with Achashverosh, she would get up and go live with Mordechai. Okay.
And the king didn't know?
It's more, I have no time, but the question is expounded for many reasons. Well, leave it on right now. Come to me after. The kitzer. So, wait a minute. She's been living with Achashverosh for many years, and she did not become Asa to Mordechai. So what? Leave the karko about now. So what happened? What happened now? What happened after 9 years when she goes to Achashverosh? Oh, now she says, "Oh, I'll be Asa." Now, don't tell me. Well, for the last 9 years, she was being raped. Really? You think every time Achashverosh lived to her, he had to beat Esther to a pulp? No, that's not what happened. I can guarantee you that's not what happened. Esther went in willingly. She went in and lived with Achashverosh, did what she had to do. She wasn't raped for the first many years that she lived with Achashverosh. So let's see these two cases. She's living with Achashverosh for many, many years, right? Of course, she's afraid to get killed. That's her heter, but she wasn't raped. She did it willingly, in order to save her life. And we say, no problem. You're not usher because you're doing it to save your life. So therefore, you're not usher on Mordechai. Now, what is she doing? She's going to Achashverosh to save not herself, but even to save the whole Klal Yisrael. And now she's usher on Mordechai. What happened? Right? Oh. Right? I'm not going to get involved right now. What was her heter? I know for Gila Rise, you're supposed to give up your life. What was Esther's heter to do all this? But trust me, she had heter for all of this. The Gemara asks these questions. I'm not getting there. I'm not going there right now, or else we'll be here all day. But she had a heter. The first couple of times she lived with Achashverosh, hundreds of times, who knows what, she lived with Achashverosh, and she had heter. Second time. In both times she went willingly. She was not raped every single time she lived with Achashverosh. So what's the difference? So the famous Shus Yaakov, who happens to be dealing with the same exact case, he's dealing with a case, bandits captured a bunch of Jews, and they said they were going to kill them all. And a woman went ahead and offered herself to them in order to save everyone. And the question was, is she usher on her husband for doing that? So the Shus Yaakov said the difference must be, in the earlier cases, Achashverosh wanted the beer. Achashverosh had a gun to her head and said, you're going to live with me like a nice maid, or else I'm going to kill you. The Achashverosh, the source of the problem, wanted that Esther should live with her. Kashavarti, Achashverosh didn't want Esther at that point. She wasn't invited to the king for 30 days, right? So goes the tale. Esther willingly offered herself in order to hopefully use that as a ploy to save the Jews. You hear? In both cases, it's to save lives. But in the first case, the first couple of years when Esther was living with Achashverosh, it was Achashverosh said, I want the beer. That's what I want. I want you to live with me. That is considered onus. She wasn't physically raped. But the guy, the maneuver, said, this is what I want. So it didn't come willingly from her at all. It was by his suggestion. Kasha avadati, what happened? There, Achashverosh didn't say, I want to live with you. Achashverosh didn't say anything. Esther offered herself to Achashverosh. There we say, Esther, you had all the reason in the world. It was mutter. Even the Beit Shalom told her to do it. 100% mutter. You're allowed to do it. To say Klal Yisrael. But at the end of the day, you're the one doing the offering. You are the one who is propositioning yourself. She gave the proposal. That's called willingly. That's not called an onus, and that's called a betrayal. Right? This is a clear chiluk, right? Oh. So based on this, says the Binyan Sion, a woman is mutter. Why is she mutter? Because Eliyahu HaNavi, the pseudo Eliyahu Navi, said, I need to be with you. I need to live with you. So she didn't suggest. It's not like, oh, you mean mutter, where she says, oh, I think it's okay. I think it's okay. Here, Eliyahu Navi said directly, this is what God wants. He wants you to live with me. By Esther said she wants to live with Achashverosh. It was her volunteering herself. So even though she had all the good reasons in the world, it's a betrayal. In this case, the lady, the gullible lady, didn't offer herself. Eliyahu Navi put a gun to her head. How did he put a gun to her head? By saying that God wants you got to bring Mashiach to the world. Without you, there'll be no Mashiach. So comes out the Binyan Sion that our gullible, foolish, naive lady is allowed to stay with her husband. Why? Because it is tantamount as if she was considered raped, and it's called an onus, and it's not called a betrayal, and even the Maharik would agree with this. The Binyan Tzion says, I know this is a big chiddush. He said if two other rabbis are willing to consent to this, we'll let this lady stay. And with this, we'll end off. Hopefully they did live together, and we mekayim the pasuk, li yois kol ish soy rebbe beisoy, l'daber k'shoy namoy. Okay, Rabbi, say.